Hi, Will.
Hi, how are you, Kim?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks for asking.
How's your foot?
Oh, much better. Thank you. Yeah, I had a lapoplasty, which is modern bunion surgery the other day, just 2 weeks. And I was up walking with a boot 13 days after the surgery. So I'm very happy and almost no pain.
Wow, really?
Almost no pain. This is bunion surgery used to be, right up there with rotator cuff is very painful, but the modern way of doing it is not nearly as painful.
And so
Thank you.
You're able to get around then?
Yes. Yep. I've got speaking gigs on the 26th and 27th. So I'll be out next week speaking.
Really? Standing and everything?
No, I told the client that I would like to have a tall bar stool, so I can sit on
nice.
it. Yeah.
Okay. I saw your dog. Your dog is adorable.
Thank you.
Your dog
Teddy.
kept you company the whole time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aw, so cute.
Thank you.
His name is Ted E.
Ted E. Bear.
Ted E. Oh, I love that.
Ted E. Bear. Yes.
That's very cute. So I read your book, A Complaint-Free World, a while back, and I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved it. I can't believe I'm talking to you right now because the book is fantastic.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
And I follow you on Facebook, and I love your quotes.
Thank you.
Day.
I've seen you share my stuff.
Oh, all the time. It's fantastic. All
Thank
of
you.
them. How do you come up with all the quotes?
It's just over time. I mean, I just, for many years, I would just come up with 3 or 4 a day. And then we started stockpiling them. And because of Facebook's algorithm, only 3% of the audience see them. So we just recycle a lot of them.
Okay. Well, they're all wonderful. I love them. So that's why I share them every day. And I have so many questions for you.
Let's get to it.
So you're always smiling. Did you
Am
grow
I?
up? Yes, you're always smiling. I mean, every time I see you on lives. I mean, it's everywhere you are, you're smiling.
Right.
Did you grow up smiling and have a positive attitude like you have now?
No, not at all. I grew up my father was abusive. My mother was chronically depressed. And I was morbidly obese for many, many years. And no, I was miserable. And the reason I think that I work so hard to teach other people to enjoy and have better lives and not complain is I was driven to try and improve my own life, as many of us are. And so there, no, I was not a happy, positive, upbeat person at all.
Wow. Well, when did you become the happy person?
Been working on it for many, many, many years. But I would say started, 20 plus years ago, because I was a unity minister, which is considered positive Christianity. So which is where I bring that up because the complaint-free movement started in my church. We handed out some bracelets and it just exploded from there. But really going to those churches and realizing more positivity, because my family maintained a very negative perspective throughout. And
really?
And I still worked very, very assiduously to become who I am. As Tony Robbins says about himself, Tony Robbins, I created that SOB. Well, that's how I feel about myself. I've created myself.
Who were your biggest influences?
Earl Nightingale, by far. Wayne Dyer, Dennis Waitley, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, Tom Hopkins, Jim Rohn. I just listened to thousands of hours of audio cassettes of these great speakers. And that's ultimately how I've got an autograph letter that Earl Nightingale sent me framed on the wall right there. So, yeah.
When exactly did you get interested in the subject of complaining?
I never got interested in the subject of complaining. I didn't. This was not something I wanted to do. This created me. I didn't create this. Everybody thinks that I decided to go into complaining and then wrote a book, got on Oprah, got translated into 40 languages, etc. That's backwards. I was doing a series on Edwin Gaines' book, The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And she recommended that people go 21 days in a row without complaining. But it occurred to me, how in the world would you know how many days you had gone? Because you're constantly starting over.
Right.
And that concept of starting over is what occurred to me. And I realized that if you take a bracelet like this one and you put it on your wrist, and every time you catch yourself complaining, you switch it to the other wrist, you start back over on day one. That makes this a mindfulness tool, not a cause bracelet. And that's why, with no advertising, we're at 15 million bracelets around the world that people have taken the Complaint-Free Challenge.
Well, I'm wearing mine.
Good for you. What day are you on?
Oh, gosh. 1.
Good. If you don't know what day you're on, you're not doing this seriously. You need to really know what day you're on. And most people are on day 1 the first couple of months. But then it begins to get easier. I always joke the average person complains 15 to 30 times a day. So complaining is like, and have no awareness they're doing it. So complaining is like bad breath. You notice it when it comes out of somebody else's mouth, but not when it comes out of your own.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I was taking a walk with my husband recently. I hadn't been wearing the bracelet, and we were talking, and I must have been complaining because he looked at me and he said, where's your purple bracelet? And I went, what? Am I complaining a lot? He goes, you really are. You should really go find it. So I've been wearing it ever since.
Good.
So you've gotten through the 21 days, or are you on like day 360 or something?
Not at all.
No?
I've completed it twice, and I'm doing it right now, and I'm on day 3. And
I feel so much better now that you said that.
Yeah, we have a Complaint-Free Life Inner Circle, which is a paid program that we support people who are taking the challenge if they want to purchase it. And we always say what day we're on. So I'm on day 3.
Okay.
Because accountability is so important.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, in your book, you talk about the 5 reasons why people complain.
Yes.
Can you tell us what they are?
Sure. I tried to figure out, as I said, this took off under me. I handed out 250 bracelets, and before I knew it, everybody was looking at me like I knew everything about complaining. And I started reading a lot of scholarly writings, and there's a woman named, I can't think of her name. She's a friend of mine. That's terrible. I just went blank on her. Forgive me. Robin Kowalski. That's it. At Clemson University. And she did her master's thesis on why people complain. And she figured out that people complain for 5 reasons, but her reasons, they're the same reasons. I use the same reason. It's just that I couldn't remember them. So I came up with the acronym GRIPE, gripe. The first reason people complain, main reason people complain, is simply to get attention. And by that, I mean, talk to somebody else. Somebody could walk up to somebody here at the pool where I live and could start talking, but they start by saying, can you believe blah, blah, blah. It's simply a way of starting a conversation. Give me attention.
Yeah.
So that's the G in gripe, get attention. The R is remove responsibility. And this is when you give somebody a task and they don't necessarily want to do it, but they don't want to look you in the face and say, I don't want to do this. So they'll complain about the circumstances surrounding the task so that you'll let them off the hook. So that's the R, remove responsibility. They come up with excuses. The I in gripe stands for inspire envy, but a better way of putting that is brag. But brag doesn't begin with an I, so I couldn't use brag. But inspire envy also means to brag. In other words, people around the world, it is considered rude to brag about your fortune. But you are able to complain about your good fortune and accomplish the same thing. I've got a friend who just bought a $500,000 speedboat. And he will often say things like, when you spend $500,000 on a speedboat, and he always says it in front of one of our other friends. Well, you think it would come with a better trailer, or they would come with a float on the key ring or something like that. So that's bragging. It's a way of letting the world know, oh my gosh, the problem with having a Tesla is, boom, now you know somebody has a Tesla. So that's inspire, envy, or brag. The P in gripe stands for power. It simply means power in our culture and in politics is other people. In other words, again, to use the metaphor here of where I live, if somebody's upset about something here in the condo complex in Key Largo, they complain to other people to get them on their side, which increases their power. Power is always in other people so long as we get them to follow us. Will Smith was a very powerful man until a week or two ago. Now he's not, because people are just not following him as much, don't really care, don't want to watch his movies. So power. The E in gripe stands for excuse poor performance. Now, what that means is that you give somebody a task and they don't want to do it. That's remove responsibility. In excuse poor performance, you give somebody a task and they do it, but they don't do a good job. And so they don't want to look you in the face and say, hey, I screwed this up. It was totally my fault. They blame somebody else. So that's your excuse poor performance. So GRIPE, get attention, remove responsibility, inspire envy, power, and excuse poor performance.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. How do you react when someone's complaining at you or to you?
I usually ignore it. That's the easiest thing. As I said in my book, there's an old Southern saying, never try and teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig. So I have always sought to follow that and to not do that. And so I just let it go. I'm not the complaint police. It's not my place. Most people see nothing wrong with complaining and don't understand how negatively complaining impacts your life. It causes you to focus on the problem that you're having rather than the solution. It costs money. There have actually been studies that have shown that people who complain frequently earn less money. Companies that have people, for every 100 employees you have, you're losing about $500,000 a year, and people just sitting around talking to each other and complaining to each other. So it's universal as to how much this impacts people's life, but people don't realize. I didn't either.
Yeah.
I always, like I said, I was so negative. I always joked that, if you have a glass of water and it's 50% water, okay, pessimist says it's half empty. Optimist says it's half full. Well, I was convinced the water in the glass was poison. That's how negative I was. So didn't even think about it. Most people go around that way and they think that it is normal. They think that that is the way to be. And then complaining is always focused on what is wrong and what is missing.
Yeah.
That's key. The opposite of complaining. What do you think the opposite of complaining is? And well, you just read my book. You might get it. Most people don't. It's gratitude.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's gratitude. It's being grateful for what is as opposed to upset about what isn't. Complaining is about what isn't. Gratitude is about being grateful for what is.
That makes sense. I actually created a log, and I just call it an annoyance log. And it's got 3 columns. So it's got in the first column, what's the annoyance? And the second one is what's the gratitude? And the last one is what's the solution? So I have a log. And I'm starting a book club. I started it. And your book is going to be the first book.
Good.
And
awesome.
So I'm going to hand out this log, and I'm going to have everybody write down all their complaints.
Great.
Yeah.
Good idea, because it's really, complaining is mindless.
Right.
It just is.
You're right.
And it is so easy to vibe with other people. I didn't mention earlier, one of the interesting things about complaining is it's a competitive sport. And I talk about that in the book. You know, if one person, you're sitting at a restaurant and somebody tells a travel experience, then someone has to tell a worse travel experience. No, it has to be that way, because if they tell a not as bad travel experience, everybody looks at them like, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't you know how complaining works? It always goes in degrees of higher severity. So it always gets worse, not better.
Yeah. It was funny. The other day, I was at a restaurant with my husband and we were with another couple, and she was sitting across from my husband and he was sitting across from me. And the two of them were discussing some pain, and somebody's pain was worse. And we're just like listening to this. So then I asked her husband, I said, well, how's your knee? He goes, fine. How's yours? I said, fine. And so we started talking about all personal development books, and they're still talking about pain. And she wrote that in Facebook. She goes, do you know what we did when we were in the restaurant? Me and your husband were talking about pain, and you guys were talking about all this great stuff. So it happens a lot. And when people get older, people like to talk about all of their aches and pains, I've noticed.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And that's like the main subject when you see people. And so I also have a log that I created about 3 years ago, and it's called an ailment log. And so what we do is we put in the date. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and it's got Mark's ailments and my ailments. And so I think we did that as a result of reading your book.
Cool.
So instead of complaining out loud, we write down the gripe, because then it's not complaining, right? If you don't say it. So
that is absolutely right. If you send it to your husband and he sends you his complaint, via text or email or whatever, then that is still complaining, because the dictionary definition of complain is to express grief, pain, or discontent.
Oh.
But if you're just writing it down, then
it started to be where we just wrote it down. But we still talk. Although I feel great almost every day. I'm
good.
I've always been positive all my life, and people actually used to call me Pollyanna or Sunshine.
Cool.
So that's just how I am. I know it drives people crazy, but I try to see the good in everything. So like Pollyanna, I always look at the bright side.
That's what you got to do.
But you seem like the male version of Pollyanna.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Let me ask you a couple more questions.
Sure.
So do you consider venting complaining?
Yes. Human beings are not clothes dryers. We don't need to vent. Now, I will tell you that there have been times, like I was on a speaking gig a couple of months ago and everything went wrong. And I called my daughter and I was like, this went wrong and that went wrong. And I was absolutely complaining. Okay. Flat out. However, that is rare and an anomaly. And if you got a bunch of stuff that's gone bad, sometimes it can help a little to let the pressure valve off. The problem is that most people look at their lives as bad, and so they just want to complain. Venting is, most people think it's something. If venting worked, then the biggest complainers would be the happiest people, right?
Oh,
there's your takeaway. And they're not. The biggest complainers are not happy. They're just not.
Yeah. So what about somebody showing frustration or sighing or moaning or groaning? Would you consider that?
No.
Complaining? No?
No. Mm-mm.
So if you get up in the morning, you're like,
it has to be subject related. And the other thing is, people often say, oh, I dropped something on my foot and I said a curse word. Is that complaining? No, it's not. Actually, I studied this. I find it interesting. Oh, yeah. Curse words are stored in a different part of your brain than other words. And when something happens, you don't choose the word. If the light over my head, which I have, fell on my head, you would hear my curse words. And that is not complaining. It's an expression of being upset, but it is not, I wish this hadn't happened. It's like, it happened.
Also, now the rest of the world that hears this is going to start cursing more.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
it's okay. I guess I'm
not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you stub your toe, you drop something, you hit your head, it's normal.
Okay. And there's some quotes in your book that I liked. And you said, the problem with complaining about our health is that it tends to draw the actual experience of sickness. Mm-hmm. And you said, what goes in your mouth determines the size and shape of your body. What comes out of your mouth determines your reality. Yes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yes. And that is that we're also concerned about many people are concerned about, eating this, reading labels, et cetera, et cetera. And what we don't realize is that what is coming out of our mouths in the form of complaints is negatively impacting our environment. It is negatively impacting other people. I believe that we live in a thinking universe. I believe that every atom of the universe is charged with thought energy, and the way that we create our lives is through the thoughts that we hold. And when those thoughts are negative complaints, then the world has no choice but to give back to us what it is we want. You say that you're a Pollyannish person. I'm guessing you have a pretty good life, pretty happy. People think that you're happy because you have a good life. It's the other way around. Your life is created by your thoughts and your attitude.
I agree. And then, so back to the pain, you wrote another quote. People who complain about their pain are not only notifying the world as to their suffering, but are also reminding their own bodies to look for and experience pain.
Yes. Yes. And again, you started off, which was really nice, by asking me about my foot surgery. And I've had very little pain. And if I were constantly, I've had two people taking care of me, my girlfriend and my daughter. And I know that when I have pain, it's important to tell them early on in case I needed an oxycodone or something, which I got off like immediately. Informing them of my pain is one thing, but constantly going, oh, ooh, ow, ooh, ee. It literally reminds your body that you are in pain and that you can be in pain with a moment's notice of thought.
You also said the first step to being different is to act like the person you aspire to become.
Yes.
The first step toward self-mastery. Kind of like, who do you want your future self to be?
Yeah. And as we joked before, Tony Robbins I don't know Tony. I've been to one of his events and I've seen a lot of stuff. But big is the only way you can describe him. I mean, he's physically big. He's got hands the size of a football, but his personality is even bigger. Yeah. And Tony chose that personality. He chose that. Mm-hmm. And what most people don't realize is I'm choosing my personality. You're choosing yours. And that means we can change. We can change. And we can begin to talk about what is going well and what we're grateful for and stop talking as much about what we're upset about and what we're unhappy about.
Yeah, it's all about choice, right?
Right.
Well, tell me about the movement that you started.
Well, it really was. We just talked about these bracelets one Sunday morning at the church when I was the minister, and within a week we had given out 250 that Sunday because that's how many people showed up, but within a week, we had requests for thousands, and months later, 10,000. And it's just people telling other people. It's catchy, literally. This is not a cause bracelet. This is a mindfulness tool. Take it off your wrist every time you catch yourself complaining and switch it. And the movement has continued to spread simply by other people telling other people and other people telling other people. As I mentioned earlier, the book being a international bestseller in many, many countries, and people just hearing about it and continuing to tell other people. My phone buzzes every time somebody orders bracelets, and it's happened several times today. So That's always exciting. Yeah. Which, by the way, you can find the complaint-free bracelets right down there at www.acomplaintfreeworld.org. acomplaintfreeworld.org.
Acomplaintfreeworld.org. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you where they could find you. And I'll include your links in the show notes too.
Sounds great.
I'll ask you one last question. What's the one piece of advice you could give our listeners?
Our thoughts create our lives, but our words indicate what we're thinking. So many people think they're very positive people in their heads even, but what comes out of their mouth is not. So your words are an indicator of what you are, who you are. And as a result, that not only demonstrates what you're thinking, but it also impacts it. Because to be a negative person, to be a complaining person, you've got to start looking for things that are wrong so that you can have these things to share with your complaining compatriots. And so the most important thing is to realize how important what comes out. There are no idle thoughts and there are no idle words. And so as we begin to intentionally choose our thoughts and our words, our life gets better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Will. Thank you for coming and spending time with me today. It's been wonderful. I'm so honored that you are here.
My pleasure, Kim, and thanks for sharing my stuff. I appreciate it. I always see it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I love your stuff. Keep it coming.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Well, have a great day. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.